Netflix and chill. I don't even know what we had back then. What was it, like Blockbuster and Backshots? What's up, everybody, and how are ya? Welcome back to the Arya Habibi show. Thank you again to everyone who's been watching, who's been sending me messages. I really do appreciate it. And if you missed last week's episode, I'm going to go ahead and leave the link right up here, because last week's episode was actually a great segue into this week's episode. Last week, I was showing you guys all kinds of new drones, new technology, and it got me thinking. There's a lot of kids that are kind of growing up with this stuff being completely normal to them. Have you ever been somewhere and you just see a kid sitting there and he's like still got like a pacifier in his mouth and he's using that iPad like a boss? You're kind of sit there shocked that like, yo, this kid grew up with touchscreen. And I know that in 30 years from now, people are gonna look back at the technology that we're using today and be like, yo, what the hell was that? I was born in 1988. I've seen technology kind of go through this huge ramp, and I'm sure a lot of the people who are actually watching this have too. So based on that, I wanted to make a video this week where I go from the new technology all the way back to the old school. This video today, I'm gonna go through about 10 things that I think that most children nowadays probably have absolutely no idea what they are. So ladies and gentlemen, if this video is cool to you, make sure you smash that like button, comment down below if you're a kid and any of this is new to you. If you knew about any of this stuff, I kind of wanted to know where you found out about it. Without further ado, off to the video we go. Star wipe.
If you're a student, a mother active in club work, a man who brings work home from the office, this was made for you.
Now, I don't know if any of you guys even know what a typewriter is. I don't know if you guys have ever seen one, whether it's in a cartoon or what it might be, but this thing was like the OG computer, okay? Think of a computer without a screen, without, a hard drive, basically without a brain or a heart, and all it was just a giant keyboard and a place for you to kind of put your paper. That's it. And what you would do is you would type on these letters, and each one had a piece of metal inside of it that would then push that letter onto a ribbon that had ink on it, which would then transfer the ink onto the paper. So it was like a whole process, and everything was mechanical. And there would be this thing called an ink ribbon. Now, nowadays we have printers with the ink cartridges where all you gotta do is just kind of plop that thing in. Well, imagine back in the day, it was literally a ribbon of ink that you had to kind of open up and you could put there, and you would put it there, and then this thing would actually punch into that ink ribbon, and it would then put the ink on the paper. If you've ever played an old school Resident Evil game, you'll know that they always ask you to put the ink ribbon in the typewriter where you can save. Yeah, that was an annoying thing you had to do back in the days. I don't know why they put it in a video game. That's like the worst feature you could ever possibly think of. And when you would type and you kind of would get to the edge of your paper, you know what you had to do? You would have to physically push this thing back and then keep typing, push it back, typing. Now, if you really wanted to get fancy with it, there was actually one, IBM started this actually, and it was kind of like a ball, and it had the letters all around it, and what it would do is every time you'd press the letter, it would kind of like jump, punch, and flip. It actually looks really cool in the video. It seems like such a crazy technology because, nowadays you just hit A and it digitally pops up on your screen. Every time you got to the end of a piece of paper, you had to actually physically take the paper out. Now, we're taking Microsoft Word and stuff like that for granted. I never had to use a typewriter growing up. It was just one giant computer that couldn't compute.
Hello, everyone. I'm from your telephone company, and the message that we have for you is that we are changing your telephone service over to dial 499.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, next on our list, we have rotary phones. Now, rotary phones were super old. I wasn't really necessarily around for them. The whole cool thing about it is that you could dial without having to call the operator. Until that time, you would have to actually literally call an operator, and that person would have to connect you to a phone number. So it was kind of a huge technological advancement at the time. So what you would do is you would take a phone, and it had this giant circle on it. You would have to put your finger in the hole corresponding to the number you were dialing, and you'd turn it. So basically, if you had a rotary phone and 905 was the number you were calling, like, yo, I'm never calling you because 905. It's just way too much work. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, rotary phones. I mean, nowadays you just tell your phone like, hey Siri, just call, mom or call dad, and we don't have to think about that. So yeah, rotary phones. Who would have thunk it?
Mami, ¿cómo se baja el vidrio de este carro?
Pues yo
¿No sabes?
no quiere.
Yo sí, man.
Turn it.
Estoy haciendo y no quiere.
Mírame. ¡Oh! Ya lo descubrió.
Ajá, sí.
Next on our list, we have manual windows. That's right, kids. Manual windows. No button that actually just brings the window down. It was a freaking wheel that you had to turn to bring your window down. And if you just happen to be in a car where your side, the window was busted, well then, if it rains and you can't get it back up, that's just too bad, so sad for you. Road rage must have been so much more aggressive back then because you had to physically bring down this window and go, hey, fuck you. And then bring the window back up. So that's kind of ridiculous if you think about it. I feel like the more angry you open the window, the more pissed off vibe you would show. So maybe it helped. I didn't have an automatic window in my car in our family for quite some time because it was a luxury back then. Now it's just a standard feature in most cars. Kids, if you've never had to endure the pain of a window that just won't go up properly when you have to physically force it back up, well then, I'm jealous because that's happened to me many times.
Take a cassette out of its case, and most people just see an empty box. But Sony saw something quite different. Sony introduces the only cassette player as small as a cassette case. The incredible sounding Super Walkman.
Next on the list, we have Walkmans and Discmans. Now, I know everyone nowadays, they have Spotify, Apple Music. Nobody has Tidal, but you know what I'm talking about. This here is what a cassette would look like. If you were smart, you carried like a pencil or a paperclip or something with you, and you would have two tapes. And what you would do is you'd put one tape in, listen to it, and then while that one's being played, you'd use the pencil and quickly rewind your other tape so it'd always be back at the beginning. Useless knowledge. For example, I'm looking at this one. This one says EF60, which I'm pretty sure means it's only about an hour worth. So, I mean, an hour worth is not even really a playlist nowadays, is it? For all you kids who've been taking Spotify, Apple Music, iPhone, all this stuff for granted, let me show you how we used to have to listen to music back in the days. First of all, you had this tape player. Now, this is a smaller tape player. These things used to be freaking huge. You take your tape, you put it in here, you close it, and then you'd have to press play. This is kind of new, but these ones were actually portable, so you can actually put batteries back here, and it would take like 4 of those giant batteries. I'm not sure which of the big round ones. I'm not sure what number they are. Take like 4 of those, and would probably work for like half an hour at full volume, and then it would start just getting lower and lower. If you watched Home Alone, you'd have seen Home Alone where he's got that little portable tape player walkie-talkie. I don't know what the hell it is, but I really wanted one of those when I was a kid. Discman actually came out afterwards, and Discman, what it did is it allowed you to play CDs, but I never really had the money for that back in the day. So eventually my brother got me one. There was so many technologies that came out afterwards that kind of were similar to the Walkman. They brought like mini disc players, MP3 players kind of came out, and once MP3 players came out and the iPod came out, the first generation iPod, that's kind of where these things were all obsolete. Because realistically, why would you walk around with 60 minutes worth of music when the iPod allowed you to have thousands of hours worth of music? If you guys have seen that, that classic commercial of this guy, his butler like brings him a cassette and he puts it in his thing, and all of a sudden the music's blasting so loud he was like really freaked out. Yeah, that's from a cassette, and I can tell you right now the quality was definitely not good enough to do that to the guy.
What would you call a video recorder that has everything?
I call it smart.
It's a Zenith VHS with extraordinary VHS hi-fi stereo.
Smart.
Plus a remote that can control both the deck and the TV.
Controls both? That's smart.
And clear special effects.
Smart.
One of the new smart decks, Zenith's VHS video recorders.
Ladies and gentlemen, up next we got something that most kids will remember, and that is a VCR. Yes, that's right, this is a VCR, and I can't believe I actually found this in my parents' garage, but this is like a newer age one. This is like a cool one. Look, it's got like a matte black finish and stuff like that. But yeah, basically what you would do is this giant box had one purpose, and that one purpose was to play tapes, and the tapes would go in here, and you would just, you know, kind of hope that the tape wasn't messed up and wouldn't get stuck in there, because yeah, we've all had a VCR that messed up at some point. One thing that's classic about VCRs is like the majority of people's houses you go to, they had a clock on the VCR, like a little digital clock, but what did it always say on everyone's house? 12, 12, 12. 12. I don't know why. VCRs just never had the right time. Now, VCRs were a big deal because they allowed you to kind of watch videos at home. Betamax actually came out before the VCR. It had better quality, but unfortunately it didn't actually make it in the market. Reason being is that the VHS tape could take way more footage or content, if you will, onto it than the standard Betamax tape.
Oh no! Beta!
And a huge factor in VHS actually taking over the Betamax was, you guessed it, porn. Porn was a huge factor in it because it was just so much cheaper, and they could put more footage onto it as well. There wasn't internet, there was no Pornhub and stuff like that. People had to get these tapes. It just won by a landslide. This is actually a true fact if you look into it. I can't imagine back in the days, you know, guys having freaking like crates full of VHS porn in their house. Like, what am I, Quagmire?
Ting tang, walla walla bing bang.
Do you remember tracking when you had to actually press like a plus and a minus button on your remote just to kind of fix the quality of the video you're watching on your VCR? Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. Now, this is a VHS tape, and this is actually my OG copy of South Park, the movie. This is like 2 times the size of some of these external hard drives that we got nowadays, and all this does is take one movie. And then once your movie was done, you'd have to rewind it back to the beginning. Otherwise, you know, it just kind of stays there like that. You know, nowadays you kind of go on Netflix and you click the movie and it's like play from the beginning or resume where you're watching. Nah, you had to physically bring the tape all the way back to the beginning, and if you didn't, well, everyone in your house hated you, including Blockbuster.
Imagine the perfect video store. It would have a great selection, right? Right! Over 10,000 videos. 3 evening rentals, so no rush, no hassle. Fast checkout. 24-hour quick drop return. Open late every night. Well, the perfect video store
Welcome to Blockbuster Video.
is popping up all over the country. There's one near you.
Blockbuster Video. Wow, what a difference.
Next on our list is Blockbuster. I actually recently just found an old school Blockbuster card that my dad used to have. You used to go there, you used to pay for a membership, and this thing would allow you to kind of rent movies as much as you wanted. 2 movies that you would pay back in the day was probably equal to your subscription on Netflix now. So imagine paying for 2 movies or streaming whatever you want on Netflix, right? So it's kind of crazy when you think about it. It wasn't just kind of sit there and watch a movie. It was an experience. You would physically go to Blockbuster and you'd walk around, you'd kind of look around, see what movies that just came out. The one thing that used to piss me off about Blockbuster though was the late fees. Late fees used to be the most annoying thing for most people because yeah, you'd have to physically leave your house just to bring a movie back, and it's like, wow, what a waste of my time. Netflix actually didn't start until the late 2000s. It started off being a company that would mail you a movie, you'd watch it, and then you'd kind of mail it back. Back then, if you believe it or not, Netflix actually tried to merge with Blockbuster, and they had like a multi-million-dollar deal on the table, and Blockbuster was like, nah, we're not working with you guys, we're Blockbuster. Yeah, we all know how that turned out, right? You should have taken the deal, Blockbuster. You should have taken the deal, because nowadays there's only actually 1 Blockbuster left in the entire world, and I believe it's in Oregon in the United States. You know, one thing that I did appreciate from Blockbuster back in the day actually was that, you know, you would rent one movie and you would just watch that one movie. Whether it was a good movie, bad movie, you would just watch it. Nowadays, we just have so much content. We have so many movies on Netflix and Amazon Prime and all this kind of stuff that's like, I don't even know what the hell to watch anymore. Have you ever been sitting there sometimes in front of the TV and you're just trying to find something to watch for like 2 hours, and by the time you watch it, you check the time and you're like, holy crap, it's time to go to sleep. Netflix and chill. I don't even know what we had back then. What was it, like Blockbuster and Backshots?
Sounds great. Listen, I can't go to the game today. What? I've got to send something for my mom's birthday. It's tomorrow. I'll then book plane tickets for our trip next week, and my kids got to go to the library to look up dinosaurs.
Hey, we can take care of all that before we go.
Yeah, right.
Oh, with America Online.
America Online can do all that?
Kids nowadays with data on their phones and Wi-Fi wherever they go, they don't understand the struggles that our generation had to go through with dial-up modems. So you'd have a phone line in your house. That phone line would then be hooked up to your modem. Your modem would take over your phone line just to connect you to the internet. So if you picked up the phone, you know what you would hear? You'd hear a bunch of and basically you wouldn't be able to use your phone. So your phone line, if someone called you, would ring busy. It was just something that when you needed it, you'd connect to it, you'd use it, and then you'd disconnect. I don't need to tell you that obviously the connection speeds were super slow back in the days. I remember me and my brother trying to download music, and this is when Napster first came out. And oh my God, Napster. If you guys don't know what Napster is, Napster was basically like the OG pirating thing of the internet. Like, I remember trying to download just little Simpsons clips, and those little Simpsons clips I'd have to leave it overnight. And me and my brother, because we knew our parents would use the phone during the day and people used to call, we would actually force our downloads to be overnight because it was like a straight 9-hour, 8-hour connection. We'd go to sleep, we'd wake up in the morning, we'd disconnect from the internet, and then we'd go to school. Looking back, if there was ever an emergency or something like that and someone called us in the middle of the night, we would have had, no idea. If I was using old school dial-up connection to just upload this video in HD, it would probably take like 2 years to upload this video on that old school thing. It's such a stupid commercial nowadays when you think about it, but it was such a big deal for you to be able to kind of book a flight and then like send a gift to someone. What a ridiculous thing to be stressed out about. Like, yeah, you have to book a flight and buy a gift for someone, and it's like, oh my God, life is so hard. Like, who would have thought that the internet needed a commercial? All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was the episode for this week. I hope you guys had some fun. If you learned something new as a kid, I want you to comment down below exactly what it was that you learned. If you were a parent and your kids had no idea about any of this stuff, I want you to comment down below as well. Make sure you like the video, share the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well, and I'll be back next week with something else that's super random. Once again, I'm Arya Habibi. Peace out.